I love being an entrepreneur and hosting this top 2.5% global show to bring you authentic talks with successful founders of companies and brands. My entrepreneurial journey started after I was left for dead. Let's learn the impactful journey of today's guest now.
The riches are in the niches, which is really good when you say it American. When I talk to my Canadian friends and they say niche, it's like the riches are in the niches. I don't know if that is still the same, but the riches are in the niches. And his message of find an industry, a vertical, a customer segment that you are just so passionate about that you want to get out of bed every morning and take care of and go deep and go hard.
Entrepreneurs, we're back, and I'm excited for this one. Eric recently took home the 2024 WSI Agency of the Year and International Franchise Association Franchisee of the Year. So there's a lot of lessons learned built into all that success. I can't wait to dive in. Eric, thank you for joining us here on That Entrepreneur Show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I can go get my crown if you want, or I can just leave it off. It's up to you.
I love it. Well, everyone, I'll share behind the scenes. I was playing the Where's My Glasses game before the meeting, and I lost this one. So I am doing the best I can. I got it nice and big here on the monitor, but he's streaming in from Michigan to make this show possible right here on That Entrepreneur Show, making this a top 2.5% global podcast, and for tuning in each and every week. He's also got a best-selling book we'll dive into because that helps grow your brand. He does so much, but I always like to bring this show in phases here, Eric. Before, right now, and what's next. What originally led you to want to become an entrepreneur?
I'm one of those accidental entrepreneurs, just like I was an accidental banker prior to becoming part of the WSI Global Agency ecosystem. My father was a banker for 33 years, and growing up in that household, didn't really have aspirations of going to work at the bank and working with my father. Accounting and numbers really didn't excite me, but stranger things have happened. Never say never. I ended up at the bank after graduating from school and realized that there were areas within the institution that needed something other than what my father was doing on the loan side and the financial side. And so in 1995, I took it upon myself to use the AOL program that came on the newly acquired computer that we bought, taught myself HTML, and launched Marshall Savings as one of the very first community banks in the country, probably with a website. There's no way to track or validate that, but I like to say it. So small little bank, website, and then got to do a lot because of my father having trust in me and what I do, explored lots of different digital innovations as a small community bank. And I guess thinking back on it now, it was very much of an entrepreneur, I guess you would call it an intrapreneur now, approach in my way to help the bank identify great partners, implement awesome services, differentiate ourselves amongst the competitors. And when I got to a stage in my career where I realized, hey, I could be the CEO of a publicly traded bank after a merger and whatnot, I got away from the things that I really enjoyed, the juice of launching new products and doing new services, got more into a regulatory oversight, dealing with auditors, shareholder relations. And for some bankers, that's where they want to go. And that wasn't for me. So I think that entrepreneurial bug was like, you're going to do something different here. And I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but all of that 15 years as a banker, normally bankers aren't seen as very risk-taking and entrepreneurial minded. I hadn't really thought about it that way, as more of an intrapreneur, maybe an entrepreneur in the works. I was germinating and wasn't ready to quite come out of the oven yet, but here I am.
Well, something different is, to say the very least. We're going from banking, I'm a finance degree as well, MBA, that side of things, where now digital marketing.
Yeah.
Let's talk more. I know you previewed the transition, but let's get into the meat and potatoes here. You're going from probably a steady paycheck, right? Doing good, living nice lifestyle, but now you're going into entrepreneurship. No more Friday direct deposit, right? So let's talk
exactly.
about that difficult transition you made.
But what was I thinking? So luckily, my wife, who is best friend and partner, not only in life, but also in the business as well, she had a stable job. So that gave me, a little bit of gumption where, hey, if we fall on our face, we built our life so we could live off of her salary. So that made me a little bit braver than maybe most, but decided why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? And I had known enough people and met enough people in my years as a banker, I could jump back in and probably get another job if I wanted to. But I rolled the dice and became part of the WSI Global Agency ecosystem. We acquired a national license and made the move in 2007. My wife maintained employment until we made the decision that, hey, it's best for her to join. And so now she takes care of the books and does all the back end stuff so we can travel and do what we want. I joke, but there's some seriousness about me being certifiably unemployable now that I've lived the entrepreneurial lifestyle for 18 years. And you know this. I mean, you can work whenever, wherever, however you want. And it doesn't mean that I work less. If anything, I work way more than I did as a banker. But I'm a business owner and it's up to me and everything rolls uphill and I catch it all. So we've got a small team that I'm responsible for. We've got amazing customers. And fortunately, if you're going to live the entrepreneurial lifestyle and run your own business, you better be pretty damn passionate for what you do because you're going to be doing a lot of it. And I love digital marketing. I love community banking. I love where the AI space has taken us as an industry and just as a society. There's a lot of flashbacks to the days when bankers were freaked out about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. They rolled up on my couch and kind of leaned back and I got into their head and said, it's going to be okay. This is not going to be the end of the world. This is not going to be a privacy concern. There's ways that you can use this to build better relationships with your customers and your communities. And we're having those very same conversations now on the AI side of the fence. And it just makes things always spicy and interesting. And it's never the same day twice, which if you are an entrepreneur listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's what gets you out of bed. And that's what's exciting about it.
Love everything you said. And you brought something up I will tease. The problems community banks face when they adopt digital marketing strategies. We're going to blend those two worlds. But now You've gone from someone who was the rookie, the noob, maybe an aspiring entrepreneur like some of these folks listening on today. And You've also now been the successful entrepreneurs who scaled. Let's go advice both ways. Which advice could you give to a early stage founder where you wish you had known this advice before you started?
Sure. Two things jump into my mind. And I made the decision to get into the entrepreneurial space and become part of a franchise. So I was buying into an ecosystem and an environment that had already been around. Coincidentally, WSI was founded in 1995 as well, which was the same year that I built Marshall Savings Doc. We didn't know it at the time, but the universe was lining up our journeys from the very beginning, which was really pretty cool. When I started with WSI, I had started doing business on the side at the bank, doing websites for area businesses in town that loved the bank's website. And so I was doing that in the evenings and the weekends. And one of the co-founders of WSI, Mark Dobson, and he and I are great friends to this day still, shared some really good sage advice. And for those of you that are maybe thinking about starting your entrepreneurial journey from a franchise perspective, I might have came in a little hot and a little confident, maybe even some would say cocky. I don't know, Mark, if you're listening to this, you can confirm or deny that. But he said, we're really excited to have you part of the family. We think that you're going to do amazing things, but just do me one favor. Come in, shut the hell up, do what we say for a year. Let the system do its magic. We've been doing this for a while. We've got some good things in place. And then after you're in it for a year, then you will have the knowledge of how we're doing it and the validation that we should be listening to you. And you probably are going to have some great ideas, but let the system do its thing and then come back to us. And I'm so glad that he had shared that because it allowed for me to put my ego aside and be like, oh, I know how to do this, and really experience the platform as it was intended. And now I feel very blessed that I am able to contribute. I'm a franchise advisory council member. I'm part of the Top Guns initiative. I've gotten some nice awards from the organization, but it wouldn't have been possible if I had just come in and started spouting off at the mouth and thinking I knew how to do things better. Trust your systems, trust your process, and that's one thing. On the other side, a couple of things come to mind. One is be ready to shift and adapt quickly, because my original business plan was not to go after the community bank market as it has evolved today. My original plan was to buy into the WSI franchise environment, to network with all of my banking friends, and to get them to introduce me to their business customers and make their businesses successful. And in my mind, if the business is successful, they're going to need to borrow more money because they got to grow. The bank's going to love that. They're going to make more money. They're going to have to deposit that money somewhere else.
Sure.
And so I was thinking too far down the road until I had my very first conversation with a bank. And he said, well, before we do that, our website, or we need a website, would you do that for us? And that was almost one of those duh moments. Like, I know banking better than anything. So why not lean into that? And that became another website for a bank, another website for a bank, another project for a bank. And that would not have happened if I had said, no. My business plan is to work with banks and to do projects for your customers. Let's focus on that. I don't know if I'd be where I was today if I stuck to that particular effort. So the universe sometimes speaks to you in ways that you need to be open to and you need to accept. And I was lucky that I've always been a little bit of an unconventional thinker and a squirrel chaser. So maybe that played off of my tendency to chase those shiny objects and squirrels occasionally. But I'm so glad that I listened and I followed that, because that banking strategy for us, following a niche and really developing that to the extent that we have, I think has been one of the critical success factors for me as an entrepreneur and a business owner. It's obvious looking back now, but everything's clear in the rearview mirror. It's what's up ahead that is sometimes a little fuzzy. You don't really know what's coming.
One of the beautiful things about entrepreneurship is that uncertainty. It is, of course, scary as heck and as anything, and it will eat you alive, especially in the downs, the ups and the downs. But everything you said there was great. Thank you. If there's early stage entrepreneurs out there, I hope that worked for you. Stick around to the end of the show. We're getting there. We'll find out where to get in touch with Eric. But and I just promised us getting into advice for experienced founders, scaling, something that I'm proud to announce for you. You have this awesome mastermind community that, of course, I'm sure came about as you got more than one customer, right? You've tried to get more people on board.
Absolutely.
First, how did you go about starting this community? And then we'll follow the transition and the growth right till now.
Yeah. So been doing the WSI thing for several years. And as part of my awareness to get people to know about the business, I started speaking at banking conferences and events. I went to the Graduate School of Banking in Madison, Wisconsin. And yes, for those of you that aren't familiar with banking, we do have our own dedicated banking schools around the country. And so I graduated from one of those when I was a banker, and I'm fortunate to now be back on faculty at a number of their programs in Madison and also virtually as well as others. And so when I would teach and speak and present, I would have people come up to me and pay me nice compliments, which is always awesome as a speaker. But I would hear things like, it wasn't until I heard you explain what the heck a hashtag is that I understand what a hashtag is. Or I now understand LinkedIn is more than a resume farm. I don't have to be looking for a job. And so those are the things that were really nice light bulb moments for the people that were in the audience. But then I would see these same people later on. I would see them on LinkedIn later, and they would be like really excited and posting and, I just sat in an amazing session. And then after about 3, 6, 9 months, everything kind of fizzled because they'd go back to their organization. There was really no formal structure. Sometimes even executive management would say, Eric, we really don't want you being a rock star on LinkedIn, because if you start getting attention, then another bank's going to come along and they're going to hire you away. And so we're cool with you just being a little sleeper. And so they were sometimes even discouraged from doing the things that I was teaching and talking about. And so I went to a conference called Social Media Marketing World out in San Diego, and a gentleman by the name of Pat Flynn presented 2018. And his whole thing was the riches are in the niches, which is really good when you say it American. When I talk to my Canadian friends and they say niche, it's like the riches are in the niches. I don't know if that is still the same, but the riches are in the niches. And his message of find an industry, a vertical, a customer segment that you are just so passionate about that you want to get out of bed every morning and take care of and go deep and go hard. And on the plane on the way back to Michigan from California, I got on the linkedbanker.com, just came to my head. I registered the domain. I got Wi-Fi. I came up with a mind map of all the different ways that I could serve community bankers through mastermind communities, blogging, newsletters, emails, webinars. And I had this vision, and then I sat on it for 2 freaking years until COVID came. And then COVID showed up in March of 2020. And my wife said, you know, that idea that you had about building a community, boy, wouldn't that have been nice to have had in place? So when all these bankers now can't go out, they've got this online community that they can go to.
Sure.
And I was like, so turned on the juice, turned up the heat. And in August of that year, I think, is when we finally launched the community. And so it is an online network of banking industry professionals that want to get together. And as the mentor, I am probably more of the facilitator of the group, but I share ideas and insights. But I wanted to create an environment that bankers could come into. If they're in an environment that's not supportive of their innovation and their desire to build a personal brand and use technology and tools to connect with others, their customers, their prospects, their communities, I wanted to give them a safe place to go and to be part of something with other people that felt like them. And so that's where the Linked Banker came out of, is that further, you know, we're building websites, we're doing digital advertising, we're doing SEO, we're doing social media. What else could I do? Let's build a community. Let's bring people together to talk and share and support one another. That then fosters even more attention, because some of those people might really like what we're talking about and say, you know, our bank is interested in getting a website. Maybe we should talk to you. And some of our website customers might say, you know, we really need to do a better job of doing online branding. Maybe we need, and so they feed each other and they complement one another. And I think as you grow in your entrepreneurial journey and you want to do more, look for better ways, more ways that you can serve in a way that's not being done. And there really wasn't a lot of online communities for banking individuals to become a part of before the Linked Banker was a thing. And to me, it seemed logical, but you know, it's going deep. The riches are in the niches. And I thank Pat for sharing his story and for being the inspiration to make that happen. It's just been such an incredible journey, and the Linked Banker has been a lot of fun as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You're motivating me, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Everyone. Well, we're getting to the end of the show. I got the website right up here. Go ahead, hop on there. If this is up your alley, sign up. But before I let him go, before I get that contact info, if you could choose any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to sit down with and pick their brain, other than him, because you already had that talk, who would you choose?
Man, I would probably go back, and I would love to have a conversation with Steve Jobs. And I know that's probably, everybody says that, and that's an easy one. As I was thinking of that question, who's a little edgy, who's changed the world, who's made an impact beyond, you know, and maybe did it a little differently than others. And it's not to say that Apple hasn't continued to innovate, but you look at the story and you look at his start and where he came from and everything that he's fought through. It just would be an interesting conversation to sit down and just have that discussion. And I don't know how enjoyable it would be, because I don't know if he was really a fun guy to talk to, but it would just be interesting to be in the room. And one of the cool parts about artificial intelligence now is it's not the same as sitting down, but there's so much information about him and his thoughts. There are ways that I've done that in the past where I've wanted to think outside of the box. And I've said, you know, in the mind of Steve Jobs, or channeling your inner Steve Jobs, ChatGPT, how would you approach this problem, this project, this idea? And so you could pick virtually anybody to do that. So there's a little bit of that, but I probably have used him more than others in my ChatGPT conversations. So he's probably one that I would pick.
That's a heck of a tip, because I use different ChatGPT, Gemini, and the bunch, and I've never used that. So I will be trying that out, and thank you for that. We had a rock star join the show today. Thank you so much for joining us all the way up in Michigan to me down here in Florida. One more time, we got your websites here. Is there anywhere else we could find you, or your books? We didn't really touch on your books. We got a few seconds here. Let's plug your books real quick and where we can find those.
So there's our third edition of Digital Minds, which is put out by WSI. I was one of the contributing authors there. That is available online. You can go to my website. You can get chapters downloadable. We've also got some great ebooks and whatnot over at Powered by WSI. So check those out. But probably the place I spend the most of my time is on LinkedIn. I'm Eric Cook, MBA on LinkedIn. And you can find me there, and I'm trying to post on a regular basis. We go live the second Thursday of every month on LinkedIn with a Link Banker happy hour that's available to anybody. It's a restream that goes live. I push it to my Facebook profile, and we've got a YouTube channel for the Link Banker as well. But find me there, and you'll pretty much catch anything that I'm talking about, events that I'm going to, and connect, follow, get in touch. I love helping people and answering questions and chatting with other entrepreneurial-like mindsets and getting ideas and giving ideas. So that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, sure is. Thank you for sharing that. Everyone, be sure to take advantage. If you're viewing on live or you're checking us out later on, we've got the websites right here. My name is Vincent A. Lancey, and this is That Entrepreneur Show. Please remember to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed today's show. And today's shows are brought to you by John Ford, doing big things with his Empathy app in the App Store, helping all entrepreneurs stay afloat. Head to empathyset.com. And of course, if you want to get your podcast journey started today, head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com. And with that, we are signing off today from Michigan to Florida. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sweet. Thanks, man. I appreciate the time.